thing.
Oh, do a little Nance. Trader Donald Trump. Get Malcolm Nance. Get Malcolm tonight. Listen, Malcolm Nance.
Oh, Lordy.
Trader Donald Trump. Get Malcolm Nance. It's Malcolm tonight.
Hi, Malcolm Nance. How you doing?
Hey, sorry, I'm looking for something.
What you looking for, sailor?
I'm looking for an extra set of earplugs because it's going to get exceptionally shouty today.
I gotta say, you echoed exactly what FBI Director Christopher Wray said, but you always say it first. You said terrible prediction, and when Nanstradamus says something, I poop my pants. At some point, the unhinged animosity toward Israel, you write, the violent anti-Semitism against Jews, the irrational anger at the Biden strategy in Gaza will provoke some individual or small self-starting group to carry out an act of lethal armed terrorism in solidarity with Hamas. This will instantly destroy all pro-Palestinian sympathy in the USA and empower white supremacist politicians to enact much, much worse policy against Muslims than after 9/11. Mark my words. Mark this post. I hope I'm wrong. And what did you think when Christopher Wray said almost exactly what you're saying, the heightened threat level in the United States because of Hamas?
You know, the funny thing is that in the counterterrorism world, we're feeling this. We're feeling this. And for Christopher Wray to come out and say that within 24 hours, the exact same thing that everyone is discussing within our little community, is that the environment is getting very hot. It's gotten hot before. Right, we know that with with Elon Musk buying Twitter, we had 200-300% increase in threats against Jews and anti-Semitism. But just since the October 7th massacre in Israel, and I have to remind everybody that attack was where they mass murdered individually, one by one, captured, zip-tied, shot in the back of the head, decapitated with a hose, set fire in the house. Entire families, 1,400 people, weren't killed by accident. They were executed summarily. Since that time, we have determined there is a 400% increase in violence or threats of violence against Jews in the United States by other people in the United States. And this is just despicable. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there who are like, but Malcolm, we're being allies. You know, what's going on in Palestine?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That does not allow you to start acting like a Trump voter. All right? That does not allow your inner anti-Semitism to wave your freak flag that you've always hated Jews. The system will come around to FAFO for those people who think that this is the time that they can take on, and show their own inner Jew hatred and go out and threaten or attack other Americans. And I personally am not having it.
Yeah. I mean, Malcolm, I opened the show by saying, too, it is despicable that Donald Trump and, in many cases, many on the right wing, they have promoted anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. And it is, like you say, it feels like it is hitting a critical mass with what's happening in the Middle East. We've got 6-year-old Palestinian boy and his mother being stabbed, the little boy to death. We've got, as you say, rampant attacks against Jews. Senator Rosen, the senator from Nevada, and it's you wrote a piece which on Substack, which is always fascinating thinking. You just said, ask yourself, are you really for Palestine, or do you just hate Jews? And you just said, I want to call attention to an issue that's been festering, the sudden increase for the support for the Free Palestine movement in the U.S. and Europe. It's undeniable that in the weeks after the massacre, Free Palestine people power has dramatically flourished around the world. But the crystallization of support in the West started with a now documented lie. You talk about the airstrike on the hospital, which, of course, came from the Islamic side, not from Israel. Let's talk about, first of all, because you also wrote about the refugee camp. And I love that you said, dear new Palestine war experts. When people go from being vaccine experts to suddenly Middle East experts overnight on Twitter. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying they're everywhere. Yeah, let's talk about that, because all that this morning and last night, here's what I was hearing in news media. You people who are television producers, I have worked with you. I've worked for you. Get some things straight. When you use words, they matter. The Jabalia refugee camp was, in fact, a remote, distant camp out in the desert full of tents and poor, impoverished refugees. In 1948, that place is a neighborhood, a sprawling, multi-story concrete neighborhood with essentially a United Nations refugee designation, right? The same way we would have a historically designated neighborhood or town in your village, in your city. Well, that's what this was. It is not an actual refugee camp. Does it have 7 generations of Palestinians that have been there since 1948? Yes. It is in the heart of Gaza City, 10 to 20-story concrete buildings with an entire labyrinthine complex of terrorist tunnels underneath it. So stop saying, oh my God, the Israelis struck a refugee camp. No, oh my God, the Israelis struck a city that they had been bombing all around for 3 weeks and struck a terrorist command center. Did it kill civilians? Yes, it did. That is an unfortunate casualty of war. It is a part that has been identified in the articles of war. They were not dropped on civilians at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
I'm hearing the numbers are not the 500 I heard yesterday. The numbers are 50, and they don't know how many of them are the terrorists that were in this complex that the Israelis said were dozens in there. I don't know. Deaths in war are horrific.
By the way, you said you ended that tweet by saying Hamas knew who would suffer above ground when they built the tunnel and command post complex under the entire city. I keep saying,
Girl,
I hope that
my laptop stack was in your face. Wait till you see the one that I'm going to release today. Hamas has a strategy called the dead baby strategy.
Yeah.
Where they know there's an underground complex down there. And they built every inch of that complex just for the terrorist group. They didn't build they didn't turn bus stops into bomb shelters like the Israelis did, like I've seen all over the Middle East.
Yeah.
They used ounce of that concrete to create a terrorist network underground. And the strategy is this. The people above are not human shields. The people above are human sponges. They are there, and their houses are there to absorb Israel's bombs.
It's the whole thing is so heartbreaking to me. You know, Malcolm, I've said from day one, I would like a free Palestine too. I would like them first to be freed from Hamas. And you write in here, on its face, free Palestine sounded like a good thing. The people of Palestine need some freedom and humanitarian champions. Their circumstances are terrible. They had no representative government, any way to exercise choice in elections for 17 years. The last government they elected was the Hamas terrorist group. They stole all the foreign aid to build tunnels, manufacture rockets, deprive the people of an economy. Because their terrorist attacks on Israel, Palestinians have had to live under virtual blockade by both Egypt to the south, Israel to the north and the east. Non-governmental organizations such as the United Nations try to fill the gaps, but the terrorist group Hamas determines what comes in and who goes out. So most Palestinian Gazans live in abject poverty, even though 50,000 Gazans work for daily in Israel. That's until the 10/7 massacre ended any future work prospect for Palestinians. And where does the leadership of Hamas reside? This is the part that kills me. In indescribable luxurious villas, riding the streets in fully armored Mercedes limousines in Doha, Qatar, as guests of the government. So this is, I mean, that's what's... Yeah, go ahead.
I said I wrote that. By the way, a little error in there. There are 50,000 Palestinians working in Israel from all sides. It's 17,000 who used to work coming from Gaza every day. Not one of them will ever see a job in Israel again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, And you say, however, when studying the phrase free Palestine, what it means is a Palestine free from and of the presence of Jews. It's, again, in Hamas's charter that all Jews must die. And you said, in my entire life, I've never heard any Israeli, save one or two Zionist extremists, claim that all Palestinians must be eliminated for Israel to have sovereignty. And my job was to listen to them very closely. Unfortunately for everyone, the entire basis of the Free Palestine movement is built on a foundation of hatred toward Jews, Judaism, and Zionism. And you said, to be honest, a lot of these people just hate Jews. And it's this, I mean, it is, go ahead. Yeah.
In West Hollywood, when staying out when I came over to visit you guys for the Sexy Liberal show, and there were posters of the kidnapped the Jewish babies and grandmothers and all that, and I saw some that had been torn down and thrown on the ground. I'm talking to all of you now. All right, we all understand that you can actually see this war for the first time in a long time, right? Other than what you saw that was going on in Ukraine. But none of us who are these activists that are getting up there, who are, showing solidarity with Hamas in many circumstances, chanting from the river to the sea. That means you support the genocide of the Israelis between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean. It's Hamas's motto, right?
Yeah.
None of you complained about ISIS getting wiped out and the thousands of civilians that were killed in that. None of you complained about Syria killing 500,000 of their own people, including dropping chemical weapons 3 times. Lots of babies died there. Somalia, Mali, and Libya. None of you complained. None of you marched in the street. So what makes this so different?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you can see it? Or is it because it's the Israelis? I don't like Netanyahu either. I understand that the Israelis have been very heavy-handed. Very heavy-handed. I mean, I saw this back in 1983 when I first encountered, and had to work with the Israeli forces in Lebanon. Problem here is that you are coming off as anti-Semitic. Yes, you can support Palestine. Yes, you can criticize Israel. But by God, you need to check yourself, okay, when you decide that some of the things that you're going to say actually means that you tacitly support the Islamic resistance or whatever you want to call Hamas's terrorism. Start your sentence with, I support Palestine, but I recognize that 1,400 Israelis were summarily executed, and I stand against that.
And Malcolm, before you go, we always have to get, how did Nancy Pelosi say it? All roads lead to Putin. All roads lead to Russia. I mean, and here you have Republicans in this country doing his work, doing his talking points, cut off aid to Ukraine, make it conditional to aid Israel. Just talk to us a little bit about this and how, Russia's in the middle of this as usual.
This is just mind-boggling. How stupid. I mean, that these Trump supporters are so beholden to Moscow. They are literally wholly owned subsidiaries of a Russian intelligence officer, a former KGB officer. Because Donald Trump kisses his pasty white butt, every one of them feel that they have to genuflect, get on their knees and crawl over to Putin's butt and do the exact same thing. Putin works with Iran. There's the same drones that Iran had been sold to Russia that they were bombing Ukraine with. They tried to shoot 12 of them from Yemen, their other proxy state, at Israel, and U.S. warships had to shoot them down. Yeah. All right? This war is expanding. And Moscow, Iran are in the middle of it. They are the true axis of evil here. There are pictures of PMC Wagner mercenaries training Hamas.
Yeah.
Okay? This whole story is coming full circle. So if you kiss Moscow's butt, you are kicking Israel's butt, Palestine's butt, any free-loving people that stands up against Iran's butt.
Yeah, absolutely. Substack, it is essential. Read Malcolm Nance's Substack, and we link to everything. Malcolm, thanks again for doing Sexy Liberal. You were a rock star. I got to post some pictures of people staring at you adoringly at the meet and greet.
Oh, they loved you. Holy
and me,
cow.
I think I got you in a bear hug from behind. Thank you, honey. We appreciate it, as always. Talk to you next week.
Thanks,
there
Malcolm.
he goes. 49.